Awesome. Today we are going to be taking notes on section 4.3, writing equations of parallel and perpendicular lines. First, what is a parallel line? Parallel lines are two lines that are in the same plane that never intersect. All non-vertical lines are parallel if and only if they have the same slope. So remember, when we look at our equations that are in slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b, we are looking at our we're looking at our m that tells us what our slope is. Just a reminder that all vertical lines are parallel. So right now I want you to tape into your notes the graph that I gave you, and you're going to copy down these points. So you're going to make line A at the ordered pair 1, 2. You're going to make another point for line A at -4, 3, and then draw that line. If you can color code these, I think that would be really helpful as well. So if you need to pause it and slow down or get your notebook to add the graph in, then do so right now. Line B, you're going to plot those points at 1, -1, and at -3, 0. Line C, you're going to plot the points at 2, -5, and -3, -4. Over here on the right-hand side, what I have done is I have found the slope for each line. Now remember, you don't always have to do the slope formula. That is what I chose to do here. I've taken the y's and subtracted them, and I've taken the x's and subtracted them. What you can also do is rise over run. So I look at all three of these lines. Right now I know that they are negative. So I know that my slopes over here are going to be negative. And I'm going to rise over run. So if I go start with the blue line, line A, I rise 1, and I run 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces. So I have a slope of m equals -1/5. If I do the same for the other line B, I rise 1 and I run 1, 2, 3, 4. So I have a slope of -1/4. And I can do the same for C. Rise 1, run 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And remember, the slope is negative because these lines are facing downward this way. So I know that my slope is negative. And I wrote here a little refresher. Remember, rise over run. That is always helpful. And you can also use your slope formula to find that. Moving on. Writing an equation of a parallel line. Write an equation of a line that passes through the point 5, 4 and is parallel to the line y equals 2x plus 3. Remember, my 2 is my slope. My 5, -4 is one point that my line passes through. So what I have to do is I'm going to write a new line, and my new line must have a slope of 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my slope of 2 and my new point, 5, -4, and I'm going to solve for my y-intercept. So I use my slope-intercept formula, and I write y equals mx plus b, and I'm going to fill in my parts. So I have my y was at -4. I have a 2 as my slope, and I have a 5 as my x. I'm solving for b. I'm going to solve this. I'm going to take away 10 from each side, and I get negative 14 equals b. So that is my new y-intercept. My y-intercept of my new line is going to be negative 14. My slope, I already knew it, was 2. So I take those two pieces of information, and I'm going to plug that into my y equals mx plus b to write my new equation of my new line. Once I have done those two parts, I am finished. Moving on. Perpendicular lines. Perpendicular lines are two lines in the same plane that intersect to form right angles. So first we talked about parallel lines. They never intersect. They have the same slope. Now we're talking about perpendicular lines. They are two lines in the same plane that intersect, and they form right angles. So I have non-vertical lines. They are only perpendicular if and only if their slopes are negative, are the negative reciprocal. So just another reminder here, vertical lines are perpendicular to horizontal lines. I'm going to talk about the negative reciprocal part. If I give you a slope of 2, and I want to write the negative reciprocal. So what that looks like is I want 2 over 1, just as a reminder. I'm going to flip this, and I'm going to make it negative. So that would be negative 1/2. That would be the negative reciprocal. Remember, if I'm going too fast, please slow down by stopping your video to catch up on your notes, and then you can move on once you've got all caught up. So what if I give you a slope of negative 3 over 2? And I want the negative reciprocal for my perpendicular line slope. What happens now is I still switch it, 2 over 3, and I no longer have a negative, because a negative times a negative would be a positive. So I have a new slope that is 2/3. And we'll get more practice with this in class next time. So knowing that, we need to identify parallel and perpendicular lines. So in order for us to decide if lines are parallel or perpendicular, what I need to look for is I need my lines to be in slope intercept form. So if it is in standard form, like B and C, I want to rewrite them so they are in slope intercept form so I can identify the slope in each one. So I have 3 different examples here. Line A is y equals 4x plus 2. I know my slope is 4. Line B is x equals 4y, x plus 4y equals 3. So I need to solve that guy. In order to do that, I'm going to take away x from each side. I'm left with 4y equals negative x plus 3. I got to get my y by itself, so I divide by 4. And I discover that I have y equals negative 1/4 x plus 3/4. So my new slope of my new line B is negative 1/4. Reminder, if it's not in slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b, I'm not able to identify what my slope is. So you got to make sure that it's in that form. Moving on to line C, negative 8y minus 2x equals 16. I've solved that, and I have the same slope. M is equal to negative 1/4. So using the rules, thinking about what lines are parallel and what lines are perpendicular between A, B, and C. I can see that lines B and C have the same slope, so they must be parallel. I can also see that lines A and B, their slopes are negative reciprocals. And the same goes for for A and C. So I know that those two are going to be perpendicular because they're negative reciprocal slopes. Alrighty, last thing for the day. We are going to be writing an equation of a perpendicular line. So the first thing we need to do is we need to identify the new point that we need to use, and we're going to need to identify the slope in the original equation and write the new slope of our perpendicular line. So our m is our slope. So I had the original line was 1/2. My new slope, I need the negative reciprocal. So that would be 1/2 would be 2/1, and I need to make it negative. So I'm okay with you using either negative 2/1 or negative 2. And remember, the point they want us to use is negative 3, 1. So I'm going to use my slope-intercept form, and I'm going to solve to find my y-intercept. So I plug in my y, my m, and my x all into my equation. And I figure out that I have b equals negative 5. So I'm going to take my b equals negative 5, my slope of my new line, which was negative 2, and I'm going to plug those into my new equation. So my new line, which is going to be line B, has the equation y equals negative 2x minus 5. So the most important thing that we need to remember is we need to have our formula y equals mx plus b memorized. We got to know what all the parts mean. We know that parallel lines, same slope. Perpendicular, they have negative reciprocal slope. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next class.